My dear friend, let me lead you on a journey of healing, divine affirmation, and unshakable self-worth today. One that will soothe your wounded heart, restore your confidence, and anchor you in the truth of your immense value in God's eyes. I want to talk about those painful moments when you realize you were someone's last option, not their first choice in relationships, opportunities, or endeavors. The sting of being an afterthought, chosen only when other options failed, can feel like a deep rejection, tempting you to question your worth or settle for less than you deserve. But I'm here to tell you that your value is not determined by who picks you last or overlooks you first. No, no, no. You were their last option because their vision was too limited to see your God-given brilliance. But God's purpose for you is to shine as His first choice in a plan designed just for you. I'm going to unpack why this happens, share Dr. Myles Munroe's wisdom on your inherent worth, and show you how to live so radiantly that you embrace your divine value and trust God to lead you to where you're truly cherished. Let's begin with a foundational truth. You were their last option, not because you lack worth, but because their limited perspective couldn't grasp the unique value God placed in you. And His purpose is to position you where you're celebrated as His first choice. I need you to let that truth sink deep into your spirit. When you're chosen as a last resort, whether it's a partner who turned to you only after others failed, a job that offered you a role when their preferred candidates didn't work out, or a friend who valued you only when no one else was available, it's not a reflection of your inadequacy. It's a sign of their inability to recognize the treasure you are, shaped by their priorities, biases, or spiritual blindness. You see, every one of you watching me right now is a divine original crafted by God with a purpose that makes you irreplaceable in His plan. As Jeremiah 1:5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." When you're their last option, it's not a verdict on your worth. It's God's redirection to a place where your value is seen from the start. Picture this for a moment. Think of the biblical figures who were overlooked or chosen last by others, only to be exalted as God's first choice in His divine plan. Do you think their worth depended on human preference? Do you think God didn't affirm their value? Far from it. Look at David, the youngest and least regarded of his brothers, passed over by Samuel until God declared him His chosen king. Look at Esther, an orphan not initially seen as queenly, yet chosen by God to save her people when others weren't fit for the task. Look at Jesus, rejected by the religious elite as their Messiah, yet God's first choice to redeem the world. Their stories show that being a last option in human eyes is often a divine setup for God's greater purpose, and the same is true for you. When you're their last option, it's not a diminishment of your worth, it's God's protection guiding you to where you're valued as His priority. Here's a vital principle I want you to embrace. You were their last option because their vision couldn't match God's purpose for you, but your worth is defined by His design, and He's leading you to relationships and opportunities where you're chosen first. Your life is like a divine blueprint, uniquely drawn by God, and not everyone has the discernment to see its brilliance from the outset. When people choose you last, it's often because they're focused on superficial priorities, their own agendas, or a misunderstanding of your gifts. God uses their oversight to steer you toward those who will see your worth immediately, aligning with His purpose for you. Here's my wisdom. Don't settle for being anyone's last option or let their choice erode your confidence. Trust that God sees your worth, surrender their oversight to Him, and focus on stepping into the purpose He's designed, where your value is celebrated from the beginning. Now let's dive into why you were their last option and how to navigate the pain of being an afterthought. People may choose you last because they're driven by their own preferences, seeking what seems more appealing or convenient at first. They may overlook you due to biases, underestimating your potential, or because they're distracted by other options that later prove unworthy. Sometimes their choice feels like a personal slight, fueling feelings of inadequacy or a desire to prove yourself. Whatever the reason, being their last option can leave you feeling undervalued, invisible, or tempted to accept less than you deserve. You may struggle to walk away, fear further rejection, or question your worth. But here's my guidance. Don't let their oversight define your value. Their choice reflects their limited vision, not your divine worth. Trust God to place you where you're chosen first, release their rejection, and shine boldly in the purpose He's calling you to. Let me share a story to make this real. I once knew a woman who was always the last option in her friend group. She was loyal, supportive, and kind, but her friends only turned to her when their preferred companions were unavailable. The pain of being an afterthought was crushing. She wondered if she was truly valuable, but she turned to God, praying for healing and trusting His affirmation of her worth. She surrendered their oversight, focusing on her purpose, and began volunteering at a community center where her warmth and leadership were immediately cherished. Her old friends noticed her absence and reached out, regretting their neglect, but she was already thriving where she was chosen first. She was their last option, not because she lacked worth, but because their vision couldn't see her light. The pain was real, but it was a sign. God's redirection led her to a place where her value was undeniable. That's the power I want you to seize. You were their last option because their perspective couldn't match God's purpose, but your worth is divine and God is leading you to where you're chosen first. Their oversight is a testament to God's protection, a challenge to release their choice, a reminder to live for His purpose, not their validation. When you refuse to let their rejection define you, when you trust God's plan, you become unstoppable. And that's when God's glory shines. They may realize their mistake later through regret or reflection, but you'll already be flourishing where you're valued, your life a beacon of His faithfulness. Here's the key. Their choice is not your mission. Your mission is to live so fully in God's purpose that your worth shines, glorifying Him. Now let me speak to those of you who are carrying the pain of being a last option like a wound that won't heal. Some of you are holding on to the hurt, replaying the moments when you were chosen last, letting it convince you that you're not enough. You're telling yourself, I'll always be second best, or I need to prove I'm worthy. My friend, you've got to release that burden. Their choice is not your identity, it's their limitation, and God affirms your worth. You are not defined by who picks you last. You are defined by the God who created you, who chooses you first, who has a purpose for you. Stop giving their oversight power over your future. God has a place where you'll be cherished from the start, but you must let go of their rejection to embrace it. Here's how you heal and move forward. First, anchor your worth in God's choice. The way you view their rejection shapes how you live. If you see it as a verdict on your value, you'll stay stuck in self-doubt. But if you see it as God's redirection, you'll live with confidence. Start telling yourself, I am God's first choice for His purpose. Spend time in His Word, letting verses like Isaiah 43:1 remind you that God says, I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. Say, I am chosen by God. My worth is divine. I am destined for His glory. When you anchor your worth in God's choice, you stop seeking their validation and start shining where you're meant to. Second, surrender their oversight to God. One of the reasons you were their last option is because God is protecting you for His plan. So don't cling to their approval or settle for being an afterthought. Bring their choice to God in prayer, asking Him to heal your heart and guide you to where you're valued from the start. Trust that He sees every moment you felt overlooked, and His purpose will place you where your light is cherished. Journal your feelings, pray for peace, or share with a trusted friend to release the pain. When you surrender their oversight to God, you free yourself to walk in His purpose, and that surrender empowers you to shine without their weight. Third, embrace your unique value. Being chosen last can make you feel less than, but your gifts, heart, and purpose are irreplaceable. Celebrate what makes you you, your talents, your passion, the ways you reflect God's glory. Take steps to nurture your value, pursue your passions, serve others with your gifts. Step boldly into opportunities. Embracing your value doesn't mean proving yourself to them. It means shining as God designed you. When you embrace your unique value, you attract those who will choose you first, and your confidence becomes a testimony of God's truth. Now let me talk to those of you who are afraid of being a last option again. Some of you are holding back from loving, dreaming, or stepping out because you're scared of being overlooked or chosen last once more. I understand that fear. It's real after such pain. But here's the truth. You can't live God's purpose by hiding from risk. Loving, serving, pursuing your calling, these come with the chance of rejection, but they also come with the promise of God's perfect plan and provision. Don't let the fear of being a last option keep you from God's path. Trust that God is your validator, that He's preparing places where you'll be chosen first, that your worth is secure in Him. The relationships, opportunities, and purposes God has for you are waiting, and you'll find them when you step out in faith. Let me share a story from my own life to illustrate this. Early in my ministry, I was invited to join a leadership team, but only after their first choices declined. I gave my all, but felt like an afterthought, my contributions undervalued. The pain of being a last option was heavy. I doubted my worth, tempted to overprove myself. But I turned to God, surrendering their oversight, trusting His affirmation of my value. He led me to a new ministry where my gifts were sought from the start and my impact grew, touching lives in ways I never imagined. The original team later acknowledged their mistake, but I was already shining where I was chosen first. I was their last option, not because I lacked, but because God had a greater purpose. The pain was real, but it was a lesson. It taught me to trust God's choice, to embrace my value, and to shine for His glory. It propelled me to a purpose that changed lives. So let me ask you, what's the pain of being a last option stopping you from doing? What dream are you hesitating to chase because you're afraid of being overlooked again? What purpose are you delaying because you're stuck on their validation? My friend, you don't need to be their first choice to shine. You need God's purpose. You need your own faith, your own resilience, your own trust in the one who chooses you first. Their oversight may hurt, but it can't stop you unless you let it. Get up, release the pain, and start living the destiny God created for you. The world needs your light, and no one's choice can dim God's plan. Now let's talk about how to make your life so radiant that their oversight becomes a mere whisper in your story, not to prove them wrong, but to live so fully in God's purpose that your light glorifies Him. First, live for God's glory. When you're chosen last, it's tempting to focus on gaining their approval, but that's a trap. Instead, live to honor God. Use your gifts, pursue your calling, shine your light for His kingdom. When you live for God's glory, your worth shines where it's meant to, attracting those who value you as He does. Second, live with confidence. Their oversight can make you doubt, but confidence in God's choice is your strength. Trust that you are enough, that God's plan is perfect, that your purpose is secure. Step out boldly, knowing that the one who created you will guide you. When you live with confidence, you show the world and yourself that their choice didn't break you, it built you, and that confidence inspires others to embrace their worth in their own rejection. Third, live with purpose. Don't let their oversight derail your focus. Wake up every day asking, God, how can I fulfill your plan today? How can I shine where I'm chosen first? Purpose is your anchor. It keeps you steady through the hurt. When you live with purpose, you create a life that's magnetic, drawing in opportunities and relationships that celebrate your light. And those who chose you last may see their error, but you'll already be thriving where you're valued, declaring God's faithfulness. Let me take this further. To truly rise above their oversight, you've got to cultivate God confidence. God confidence is the assurance that your worth comes from the one who created you, not the ones who chose you last. Spend time in His presence, letting His word remind you of your value. Psalm 18:30 says, as for God, His way is perfect. The Lord's word is flawless. He shields all who take refuge in Him. Believe it, live it. When you're grounded in God confidence, you create an inner light that no rejection can extinguish, and that light attracts those who are meant to walk with you. Another key is to practice gratitude. Being chosen last can make you focus on the pain, but gratitude shifts your perspective to God's faithfulness. Be thankful for your worth, your purpose, the places where you're chosen first. Be thankful for the lessons, the growth, the opportunities God's redirection brings. Gratitude doesn't erase the hurt, but it lifts you above it, reminding you that God's plan is greater than their oversight. Try this. Every day, write down one way God is affirming your value. Over time, gratitude will transform how you experience rejection, making it a stepping stone to your destiny. Let me share another story to drive this home. I once met a man who was the last option for a romantic partner. He loved her deeply, but she only turned to him after other relationships failed. He felt like a fallback, his worth questioned. The pain was deep. He wondered if he'd ever be a first choice. But he surrendered the hurt to God, trusting His worth was divine. He focused on his purpose, building a career in mentoring youth, where his compassion was valued from the start. He later found a partner who chose him first, and his former love expressed regret, but he was already shining where he was cherished. He was her last option, not because he lacked, but because God had a greater purpose. The pain was real, but it was a lesson. It taught him to trust God's choice, to embrace His value, and to shine for His glory. It propelled him to a purpose that changed lives. Here's another principle. Embrace God's redirection. Their oversight can make you feel unworthy, but God uses it to guide you to your true path. Trust that He's closing doors where you're chosen last and opening ones where you're chosen first. Your job is to walk in faith, not to settle for less. When you embrace God's redirection, their choice becomes a divine push toward your destiny. And that perspective empowers you to shine where He leads. Another practical step is to celebrate your worth. Being chosen last can make you feel diminished, but celebrating your God-given value shifts your focus to His truth. Acknowledge your gifts, your heart, the ways you reflect God's glory. Take bold steps. Share your talents. Serve others. Chase your dreams. Celebration keeps you rooted in God's affirmation, reminding you that their oversight didn't define you. It revealed the strength of your divine calling. Let me close with this. You are not defined by those who chose you last or their limited vision. You are defined by the God who created you, who chooses you first, who affirms your worth. You are radiant, you are irreplaceable, you are a vessel of divine purpose. Their oversight is not a verdict, it's a lesson, a sign, a call to shine brighter. Anchor your worth in God's choice. Surrender their oversight to Him. Embrace your unique value. Live for His glory with confidence and purpose. Cultivate God confidence. Practice gratitude. Embrace His redirection and celebrate your worth. When you do these things, you'll live a life so vibrant that their oversight will fade in the light of your purpose, and you'll glorify God while inspiring others to trust His plan. So go out there, my friend, shine with unyielding brilliance, chase your purpose with unrelenting faith. Let their oversight be the lesson that fuels your greatest chapter. The world is waiting for you to step into the purpose God created for you, and no one's choice can stop His plan. You've got this, and I'm cheering you on every step of the way.